بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجه الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Welcome to another session of the Black Imams Roundtable. Alhamdulillah, with our co-chair Imam of the Boom Bap, Imam Faheem Lee. As you know, our great Imam Naeem is traveling, so I don't know if he's going to be joining us tonight. But tonight is going to be an interesting discussion with our Muslim elders. And one of the things that I think is so important that at Tanwir, you got to put your mic on mute. We live already. And I don't know, Hajj Tamir.
Button to bring the volume up.
Hajj Tamir, are you there? Hajj Tamir, are you there? I don't know. But one of the things we want to take advantage, especially, is our elders. And, you know, our teachers used to say to us, whoever's 1 year older than you, that's your elder. So they got us by several 1 days and years. And we want to benefit from their knowledge while we still have the opportunity to do so. So we're going to have just a general conversation. And we had both Brother Tanwir and Brother Tamir on before, as we had Imam Asim. And inshallah, we wanted to come together and have some important conversations about our situation as Muslims here in America, as African-American Muslims, Black Muslims. And I want to start off with something that I remember coming up. Before I do that, let me give our co-imam, Imam Faheem Lee, to have an opening, inshallah, before I mention the point I want to make.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. All right, so y'all want this party started right? You want this party started quickly, right? So we're gonna set it off. First things first, let's get that coverage fee, because we about to rock the spot tonight. You know what I mean? A minimum with $10 is all it costs, you know, to get into this this extravaganza we're gonna have tonight. We got so many legends, so many lead singers, so many vocals. Oh man, it's going down, baby. You got to cover this charge. You got to cover this fee tonight. You know what I mean? This is a grand event. Let's do it. Welcome you all. You know, thanks for joining us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering one of immense barakah. Amin.
Have any opening before we get started? Imam Naeem, can you hear me?
Everybody catch it.
Wa alaikum salam. Do you want to have like a quick opening up? We got our elders that we were going to have we had both of them at different times. Now we got them all together to have a nice conversation. Do you have anything particular you wanted to open up with before we get started?
I just want to say, you know, in light of the fact that I'm in Gambia with a shaky internet, I want to say in my Eddie Murphy Coming to America voice, I'm happy to be here. You know, and also I just want to welcome Imam Asim, Hajj Tamir, and Tanwir. You know, back on the platform. It's a pleasure to have you. Alhamdulillah. Other than that, I don't really have anything special.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know if it's you or that long delay. Man, shut up. He's good. Okay. Tell you. What we wanted to do really, and we wanted for all three of y'all, I feel like because we have three guests today, so we're going to kind of be quiet and let y'all give us some advices. But one of the things I wanted to start with, and a big concern that we're having today, is joining between our culture and the things we're confronted with as Black people and our Islam, and how, from your experience, did y'all navigate those two realities? And where do y'all think we need to be going today in regard of learning our deen, practicing our Islam, but yet at the same time maintaining who we are as a people in the reality that we live in our society? And Imam Asim, as the Imam, will let you go first, inshallah.
Well, alhamdulillah, it's a lot that's involved with us maintaining ourselves as a entity that has a mission as human beings, not only here in America, but in the world. We find ourselves responsible for where we're at in the world today. And a lot of people don't really, they don't really look at it that way. But, you know, we're not responsible for what happens, say, in Saudi Arabia or in Pakistan. We're responsible for what happens right here amongst us. And I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will charge us for what our responsibilities are here. So that's, you know, the way we look at how we approach what our duties and obligations are to one another. Of course, there's always the demand for knowledge. The demand for knowledge is always ever present, but practice goes along with knowledge. And, you know, a lot of us, we're just hung up on knowing and not practicing. I had a conversation, if I can diverge for a second, with a brother in regards to the lewdness of the women in society nowadays. Me and him was in a store, and a young lady came in, and she was basically naked. And so, you know, me and him, we looked at each other, and, you know, and that when she left, you know, I made the comment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, well, he gave our women the command to protect their private parts. And so he says, yeah, but you have to know the fiqh of why a woman should protect her private part. I said, yeah, it would be all right to know the fiqh. I say, but the main thing we should know is that we should lower our gaze and guard our modesty, you know? And that would do the average person, the common person, that would do them more good. It would do them more good to know or to be reminded that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty, as opposed to knowing the fit and the root word of guarding your modesty, and like that. But he wanted to argue. He wanted to argue the point. I guess he was from the community that likes to argue points like that. And I walked away because I didn't want to get into that argument. But the reality is, yeah, knowledge is essential. But once you get knowledge, you have to put it into practice. No matter how great you think having knowledge is greater to know and to practice. That's how I'm going to respond to that.
You're on mute, Imam.
Who's the oldest, Tanwir or Tamir?
I'm the youngster here. Go ahead, Tamir.
Oh man, yeah, you got to play the fact check. Go ahead, Tamir.
You're on mute, brother.
So what was the question again, Imam Amin?
So, what we've been talking about in terms of navigating our Islam and our struggle as a people. You know what I mean? So often we find that, while we're trying to be Muslim, we forget the struggle and the realities we're facing with as Black African Americans, Blacks, whatever title you want to use. But our people here in this struggle with the deen, how do you navigate that? And what do you think we need to be doing to, have our Islam in that balance and strike that balance?
Mashallah, it's a good question. It's also a tough question, I guess, to some extent. It can be very tough. I remember, well, this whole thing is about like the elders, and so like I kind of look at like life like through this like traveling, like being on the road, going somewhere. And say I'm in Texas now, and I want to go to New York, and I can get on a plane and be in New York in like 3 hours, or I can get on a train and I can be there tomorrow. Or the bus would take even longer than that. I rode a plane from New York to California. It was just a matter of hours. I took a bus. It took 3 days. And so, and I look at my life. When I was in my 20s, I really had very low expectations of making it to 30 years old because of the life that I was living, the direction that I had been driven to. And I was a product of my environment. And the environment that I lived in kind of dictated that things could really go bad and I could die at any point in time. And then I made it to 30, and then I made it to 40, and then 50. And now here I am in October, I'll be 67 years old, inshallah. So, but I've seen people, so for me, getting here has been like being on the bus going to California. But a lot of my friends and relatives got on a plane. And so that whole illusion of, okay, well, these cats are like super old and these guys are young and there's more time. The difference for me with that time thing has been that when I was younger, I had expectations of, okay, I know I'm going to die, but I always had in the back of my mind that it's not going to happen right now. I got time. At almost 67 years old, that reality is like that journey to New York from Texas. I'm in New Jersey. So now, whether or not I get on something fast going to New York from Jersey from Jersey, or I walk or I ride a bike, Allahu Alam. But I know that I'm a lot closer. So mentally, is the reality of me being very close is always in the front of my mind, always. So if the question is how do I mix, or how do I like my life, Islam, being a black man in America or on the planet at this point, and being a Muslim, I didn't even know I was black until I was, 3 or 4 or 5 years old. I can remember back as far as 3 years old. So it was a long time before I even knew that I was black. Once I realized that I was black, then I started experiencing all the things that went along with that. My parents, I grew up in New York, so I was born, but my parents used to put me in the car, me and my sister, and take us to different places in the South, to Martin Luther King situations and different things like that. I remember the signs that said, whites only on the bathrooms, on water fountains. I remember my dad having to put 5-gallon cans of gas in the trunk of the car so there were places we couldn't get gas. My mom used to have things of fried chicken and stuff like that to take with us because we couldn't eat in certain restaurants. And then there was that little book that we had, that my dad had, that told you where you could stop safely as a black person while traveling throughout the South. I remember when we would get into Winston-Salem, North Carolina, that there was a sign that said you were in Klan country. I have actually physically seen people in Klan uniforms. I've seen that for my own self. I've been on the planet now for almost 7 decades, and I can tell you that I have witnessed almost 6 generations of people. Because my grandparents or my grandmothers, I didn't know my grandfathers, they had died before I was born. My parents, then my generation, then my children's generation, which is my grandparents, my parents, that's 2, my generation, that's 3, my children, that's 4, my grandchildren, that's 5, and I have 4 great-grandchildren. So 6 generations of us, I have witnessed them being here, and I've witnessed the transitions of things that have happened throughout time. Imam Asim mentioned seeing a woman almost naked, and me and my wife just seen on the way back home here, seeing a woman walking down the street and inside the mall in an outfit that in our time, in me and Imam Asim and Hajj Tamir's time, would have just visually been thought of as being a prostitute from just the way that she was dressed. Today's dress code is like that. And so coming into Islam and making the Islamic way a part of my life, I had an interesting experience. See, Imam Asim was my first Imam. It was my first experience in Islam. It was coming to 60th Street. One of the things that I liked about 60th Street, a Masjid Mujahideen, because it was exactly what the name says. Okay, the energy there was energy of brothers that were straight up warriors. So I was around men. It wasn't that Assalamu alaikum. It wasn't that real kind of feminine energy that you see coming from a lot of cats today. It was masculine energy. And we're almost at a point Islamically where masculine energy globally, where masculine energy is kind of like taboo and it's almost illegal. And in some places it is illegal to have that masculine energy. But I had that great adventure or that great experience of having that. And, so the transition for me from the dunya and having all of those experiences that I had in the dunya, all of those long horror stories, and I had some amazing times. I had some that was in between of all kinds of things, and things that I didn't do myself. I saw other people do. That whole stuff that happens in the dunya. That was all a part of who I had become. So when I came into Islam, the transition was not something that happened overnight. It wasn't like night and day. It was a rubber band stretch. And I had to kind of catch up with myself a lot of times. And so it was a transition to live the lifestyle. And like the Imam was saying, the knowledge is very important. And I went out searching for knowledge. And I ended up with some brothers that were not African American. They weren't even American. They were from another country. And they had knowledge that at the time I didn't know where to find anywhere else. And I found myself in a position where, in order for me, and being 1000% honest about it, I sugarcoated it for a long time, but in all honesty, I found myself in a position that I had to put that militant, I had to pull him backwards in order to be able to be accepted in that environment to acquire their knowledge. And as an African American in Islam, I felt the weight of being Black. I still felt the weight of being Black. It wasn't like I had, and it was, that blew my mind, because I thought I was going to come into Islam and all of a sudden everything was going to be good. We was going to all be holding arms and marching together towards victory. And it just really didn't turn out to be that way. And there were times when I found myself by myself. And when I say by myself, I was in an environment where there were no Muslims. And so alhamdulillah, Allah had blessed me with acquiring the knowledge, and that was just with the knowledge, the practice, which I found to be the most important thing. Still to this day, the most important thing to me, in addition, that goes side by side with acquiring knowledge, is implemented it in my life every moment of every day. I tried it. You know what? It took me a long time to love Allah. It did. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I took Shahada and all of a sudden I was in love with Allah. I was in love with the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I had an understanding of who they were. I thought some amazing things had taken place, but it took a long time for that love to really come into my heart. And it eventually did. And there's sometimes when it went up and sometimes it was floating around, being honest. But I found myself here as of late that, and as a result of being around this environment right here with the 453 family, that energy that I had as a new Muslim has been revived. And that passion that had gotten weak, the passion is back. I'm around masculine energy. And as men, as Black men, we need that. We don't need our women to be masculine. We need our women to be feminine, but we need to have each other to have that masculine energy. And that masculine energy, like, is powerful, and it drives me and to practice. And so now I love getting up to pray at night. I'll say I want my last words to be La ilaha illallah. So after every time, after every sentence, after every conversation, that when it's my turn to listen, I'll say La ilaha illallah. So it's kind of like I just try to make that the last thing that I say all the time. I don't know if this is making any kind of sense, but that's the way it is for me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so if you're asking me, like, how do I, being Black and being a Muslim, it's tough, but at the same time, it's easy. It's not as easy, it's not as tough as sometimes my brain will try to make me believe that it is. Sometimes Shaitan will come in and tell me that I got all these things holding me back. And a lot of times that's just an illusion. It's not as big as it is. I think it is. Let's show it. You're on mute, man.
You muted, Imam, I mean.
Man, all this talking you be doing, you don't know how to use the mute button, man.
It's time for me to shut up. That's
Come
what
on,
I'm
man.
trying to. I wish y'all just go for it. I'm trying to guide the conversation, but we need. You know how you ever want to say you want to be the fly on the wall and just listen to the elders speak? That's how I feel. Just be quiet and let y'all go. But Hajj Tamir, how do you navigate both things, and what do you think we need to be doing? It's the same question. I just wanted to get that because I'm gonna go more in depth, but I'm just trying to get how y'all looking at things.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Habibina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. I remind you and I remind myself to correct your intentions wherever you are, that we're in this session for the sake of Allah in obedience to Allah.
Amin.
The first thing I have to say is that as African Americans, as a people, we have gone through a lot of things. And we're still going through a lot of things. And the most important thing that we should be doing now is teaching what we have learned of the correct belief and the correct creed. This is the most important matter in our communities now, bar none. Because if that's not taught, then nothing is going anywhere. So you start with the foundation, which is the creed of the religion, first and foremost, is what we have to do. And we also have to remember that the Prophet ﷺ said that these times that we're facing will be coming. We see it. We see what's happening every day. We're witnessing it every day. Firsthand, we see what's going on. And if we don't concentrate on teaching the correct creed about Allah Azza wa Jal and His Prophet ﷺ, then the rest doesn't matter. Because we know that most of the time, most of the people did not follow the prophets. That's just a fact. Most of the people did not follow the messengers and prophets that were sent to them. So what I'm saying is that we have to get on the ball in teaching our people the correct creed, even if they only know La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If that's all they know, eventually they would be successful on the day of judgment. So our community has struggled through a lot of different things, but the most important thing, as I said, is that we teach the correct creed. Now, when we were younger, we had a sharper eyesight physically, but we didn't have it mentally. And as we get older, our eyesight may be weaker, but it's really it's clearer and it's internalized. So we as the elders or older Muslims, we need to get some of the younger brothers and teach them so that they can teach, because we're not going to be here long. You know, we may not see what is going to happen in 50 years. Of course, we won't be here, most likely. So we need to start now. We're way behind. We need to start now teaching the correct creed, getting some of the brothers and sisters, ready to teach this knowledge to the next generation. This is the most important thing that I see. I went through a whole lot of stuff. All the different groups, Nation of Islam, Ansar, all of that, Black Power movements, all of that. But none of it will matter unless we die on the correct creed. And this is the most important matter that I see. I won't hold you long, but this is the key that I think we need to focus on at this time. Barakallahu bikum. May Allah Ta'ala grant us success in our endeavors.
I wanted to share, as all y'all touched on practice as well, right? And there is a line in one of the famous poetries, right? That the meaning of that line is practice, even if it's only a tenth, like in zakat, right? You will go by the light of knowledge out of darkness, right? It said, and the learned person who doesn't practice with his knowledge, he will be punished before the idol worshippers. That's deep, right? Said, says, فَعْمَلْ وَلَوْ بِالْأُشْرِ كَالزَّكَاةِ تَخْرُجُ بنور العلم من ظلمات فعالم بعلمه لم يعملان مؤذب من قبل أباد الوثن. Subhanallah, that's deep. So knowledge is good, but I think this is one of the things that I want to ask. As Muslims, and y'all lived a long time, and y'all experienced a lot, if you could give the next generation, meaning your children and anyone who would listen to you, advice, besides what you mentioned, what would be 3 things that you would recommend that they pay most of their attention to? Imam Asim.
All right. Alhamdulillah. I'll give one, all right?
No, you gotta give 3, Imam. We gotta get it all.
Well, the first thing I believe is brotherhood. See, we will not believe unless we love one another. And one of the main nemesis of success is the lack of brotherhood. See, we fall out with one another too fast. And when we fall out, there's a rooted animosity that develops that causes us not to go forward as brothers. You see, because all the things that go along with that come into play. The distrust, the envy, the jealousy, all that comes into play. So, one of the things, I was saying, learning to love one another as brothers and moving forward with that. Okay. And, again, I'll say 2, understanding the importance of family. Understanding the importance of family. Because, see, the nation is made up of families, man. We have our brotherhood. But then what happens is, as our brotherhood exists, the way we used to be, in the Dar Islam movement, is we stayed in the Jamaat. Our children married one another. My son married your daughter married my son, and like that, And so that developed the tribe. So I got brothers now that we share grandchildren together. And it's important that they understand that they are family and that the families make up, and we need to work on that. Because right now, families don't see the importance of maintaining that family status. It's like, oh yeah, that just happened to be my cousin. No, that's your cousin, man. You know what I mean? And y'all all together. And this is what makes up the tribe. And this is how we're going to move forward. Because we're going to ask this family to do this. We're going to ask that family to do that. And as families, we're going to build the Jamaat. See? And, that's two things that I can say that, is the utmost importance. You see? And then, I'll say it over when you're going to say one, but the third one, once Imam start talking, they can't stop, right? The third one is, what will our relationship in society be? How will we approach society? Because the simple fact is that it's a level of corruption that's happening in our community, right where we live, that we can't be a part of it. We have to find a way to separate ourselves from the wrong, but yet apply ourselves to establishing the right. See, we are, and see, I believe, Imam, brothers, I believe that in order for us to justify being here, and I know, being able to turn the TV on, being able to go shopping, all that's good. You know what I mean? As opposed to living in a village in a mud hut and having to go down to the river for water. You see, there's a sacrifice that's being made for the conveniences that we share here in America. Now, we have to ask ourselves, living in the midst of these things, is it worth the sacrifice? Because Allah is going to question us, I believe, about living in the environment that we live in. Because, who we are, who are we? We see, Islam was never developed or brought forward to be subservient to anything. I don't believe that, it never was designed for us to be under. Allah says that we are the best to come from mankind for mankind, because we enjoy what is right and we forbid what is wrong, and we believe in Allah. See, so if we the best, how can we justify living underneath the corruption that we living under without a purpose? See, what is our purpose? Because if we don't find a purpose, if we don't have a purpose, then we have to ask ourselves why we continue to choose to be underneath this kind of corruption that we live in the midst of. Because most of the righteous men found themselves moving on. The Prophet ﷺ said that Hijrah was incumbent on his ummah until Yom Qiyamah. See, so Hijrah is always binding on us. When we find ourselves in a situation and we find that politically things are changing for the worse. They've made some things legal in society that's directly against what Allah has commanded. It's directly against what Allah has forbidden. You see? So again, how do we fare in a society that says you can be intoxicated? You can drink liquor anytime you want to. Or adultery is something that's acceptable. You see? Because, it's always being put to the test. Right now, the governor of New York, he's being scrutinized because of the simple fact that he's just being a man. when you work in close proximity with women, you eventually you go put your hands on them. You can't work around a woman up close like that, man. You know, hey, we all men. Everybody know what I'm talking about. You know,
Hey,
when you
Imam, you're gonna get us in trouble.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Take your hands to yourself.
We're not supposed to be around women like that. And he's the proof in the pudding. He can't keep his hands.
Share something. I want to share something with you. Just quick second. I just had a discussion with a woman about this situation because you know he resigned, right?
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he resigned.
Okay.
So you know they got the Me Too on him. That's what happened. Right. It was like one, then another one, and the Me Too got him, right? But and I said to a woman, I said, that's a lot of Me Too's. You mean to tell me there wasn't just him? There was nothing else inappropriate going on?
Right.
If it's not just the environment, a look, a certain dress, all of those things, I'm quite sure aided to him not keeping his hands to himself or eyes or words. That was just because I just had that conversation.
Oh, yeah. No, but see, all that's a part of the trend in society, man. And we're in the midst of it. And see, and these are the things that while we're strong enough not to become victims of that. But are children strong enough? See, is my son strong as me? Because before I would have a relationship with a woman, I'd marry her. See, I had sense enough to marry her, you know? But do our sons have that kind of fortitude? You see? And so say they don't. So now we got our sons, they all zannies. They all they're messed up in life. Inshallah, forgive them. Allah strengthen them, and they'll be able to move forward. You see what I'm saying? But we lost our children to the ways of this society. See, so that's a hit that we have to look at and say, man, is it worth it? Because I know, you know, some people, when their child's school started taking on the trends of the things that they didn't like, they transferred them, right? So how do we transfer? You know, how do we transfer ourselves? Because society is taking on the elements that really, as Muslims, we can't change it with our hands. And a lot of us are afraid to speak out against it. So then the Prophet ﷺ said, the weakest position is to hate it in your heart. See? So, you know, this is where we find ourselves. And he said that was the weakest. So as Muslims, as believers, do we stay in a weak position? That's what Tamir was saying about us when he joined the Jamaat, because that's the kind of background we had. You know, that we were just soldiers. And, you know, not necessarily wanting to fight, but taking positions on things in society that a lot of Muslims would say, man, look, just leave that alone. You know what I mean? And, you know, my daughter, she just wrote me a sign that said, don't talk about homosexuals. You know, how can you not talk about that, man? How can you not?
This is the Black Imams Roundtable. We talk about everything.
Hey, man.
We don't have no filter.
Hey,
Zero.
But the thing about it is, we gotta address it, because when we look at in Jumu'ah, we starting to see the little boys, the little young men, starting to act effeminate, man. They starting to, I mean, so how you going? Yeah, you can't turn your blind eye to it. You can't say it don't exist. Right? It's existing. You know? So how do we address it? We gotta address it. Because if we don't address that, it'll destroy us. You see? So, you know, it's just certain things that we have to be about the pure. And that's, you know, the three things that I see. And, you know, just like the murder rate, people want to talk about all of a sudden black people killing each other. Nah, man, black people have been killing each other ever since I can remember, man. I know, you know, when I was growing up, the hottest thing in the neighborhood was the bar, was the corner bar. And you had one on each corner. Y'all remember that? You had a bar on each corner. Every weekend, somebody get their throat cut. Right? So the weapon of choice back then was knives, man. Thank God it wasn't the guns that we have today. But now we got guns, man. So people, when they fight, they just, and we've been listening to rap music for the last 30 years that encouraged a culture of violence, right, amongst us. I'm not going to say amongst the youth, because you got guys that's our age that they get just as mad as a young man, and they want to kill you, man. See, the thing now is, hey, people get mad. They don't want to fight. Ain't nobody fighting no more. You punch a guy in the mouth, you know, you expect to get a fair one. There ain't no more fair ones, man. You punch a guy in the mouth, he shoot you 5 times. You know? And that's what's going on in society now. We got to bring our community up to stuff, man. We behind. We behind. We ain't, you know, I told brothers when I was giving the khutbah, man, stop thinking that you could punch a guy in the mouth and get away with it. You can't punch nobody in the mouth and walk away no more. Because the next time you see him, he gonna kill you. If he don't pull out a gun right then and kill you. You see? Everybody got a gun, man. Everybody got a gun. You know? And so, hey, that's what's going on now, man. When they get mad at each other, instead of fighting, they shoot. So how do we begin to address that? How do we begin to change the tide? Now, I don't know if we can change it, but it is things that as Muslims we can do to help bring about the healing in society. You know? And I think we should do it, man. We can't just stick our head in the sand and say, man, that's their problem, because Muslims is getting killed. You know, there's a cemetery up here on Marshall Road. I don't know if everybody's familiar with it. It's called Friends. That's where all the Muslims in Philadelphia was getting buried. Man, that thing almost ain't got no more room. If you seen all the Muslim graves in that thing, you would shake your head. I was going in there one day to a janazah, and some people had looked in there and seen all the fresh Muslim graves that was in there, because Muslims was in one section, and they asked, well, what happened? Like, well, you know, is there a war or something going on and everybody is dead? I mean, they almost use all the space that they had designated for the Muslims. So, you know, it ain't like Muslims ain't dying. It's Muslims dying, man. It's almost a janazah every day. Almost a janazah every day. And then a A lot of times you got Muslims killing Muslims. You know, so how do we address this, man? When do we address it? Because right now you got a lot of the imams, they just sitting back, man, and you know, but they might get motivated now because the city talking about giving out some money. They're giving out. Everybody know about that? City got millions of dollars that they giving out to groups that's trying to stop the violence on the street. So you might have a lot of imams come out now because, you know, that's the incentive, you know. But, you know, hey, man, that's a reality, man, that has to be addressed, man. And, you know, the Muslims, we've been talking about coming up with strategies on how to address it. We just ain't did it yet, you know. And, you know, that's something that, you know, we have to stop talking about and start doing. Alhamdulillah.
CD Tanwir, we're gonna try. We got one more hour to go, so we want to try to like streamline these things. So because I want y'all to have your own.
No, I'm sorry.
No. This would listen. You know, I'm gonna tell you me. I'm being a little selfish. I don't know if Imam Faheem feel the same way. In the dunya, we used to like to watch the older people. We was knuckleheads, but we would sit in the projects and let them tell us life stories. We enjoyed those moments. And Islam, and I'm telling you, sometimes I want to cry thinking about it. Honestly, it really makes me want to cry. All my teachers are way older than me, right? Among the foreigners I'm talking about, my Arab teachers from the Arab world, right? They're all gray like us. Well, y'all, and I'm getting a little bit, right? 70, 80. But among our own people, honestly, we can't count on the hands how many elders we sit down and have a conversation with, right? So this is also in my intention to make a culture for young people to look to their elders for guidance and make it like, this is what we do. We listen to our elders. So take your time.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And now I learned that a lot of those older guys, not the Muslims, but they was lying, man.
Go ahead, Tamir. So give us your three, inshallah.
Three things I would think of off the top of my head. The first being one of the things that Hajj Tamir said from the beginning, which would be to become proficient in Islamic obligatory knowledge. The knowledge of Allah, the knowledge of His Prophet ﷺ, learning about the cleanliness, fasting, salat, Hajj, zakat, the sins of the hands, heart, tongue, eyes, ears, stomach, private parts, feet, to learn the dealings. And marriage is is in the book of dealings, and all the things that go along with that. Because just learning the Islamic obligatory knowledge is going to cover so many areas. It's going to cover how to be the man or how to be the woman in the family, and how to be the man or the woman in the community, and how to lead from both ends, how to raise the children. All of that is in part of the Islamic obligatory knowledge. It's going to tell us how to do business. It's going to tell us how to do so many different things. We're going to learn. Like, our religion is complete. And so if we get the obligatory knowledge down pat to a place where we are actually living it, then everything is going to be covered. We need discipline in order to make that happen, though, because human beings are naturally lazy. And we are also creatures of habit. So that whatever habits that we develop are the ones, or whatever we gravitate towards, that's what we're going to get comfortable in. If we get too comfortable in it, sometimes it may not be good for us. So I would say to do something to practice discipline. I've been doing the martial arts for over 50 years, not because I would have been quit the martial arts a long time ago. I'm not really excited about, getting hit and throwing down on mats and stuff like that. But the push, the drive, the constant drive to elevate myself in the discipline of it has given me the discipline that I need, that I translate into my Islam. So for me, that's how that works. Another thing that I would say to do is to realize that we have something we talk about just in general conversation amongst families of generational wealth. And we know the generational wealth, when we think of wealth, we think of money. We're thinking about financial stuff. And we think of generational wealth as being money that we transfer from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And as a rule, it seems to be, our people have gotten to a place that each generation is starting off from scratch. We're constantly starting over. And I've noticed during my lifetime and meeting people from other cultures that when their kids graduate from college or whatever, they don't give them something like a car or something like that. They give them a business. They make them a part of the business. We tend to go to school to get degrees to learn how to work for other people, where other cultures go to and get the knowledge to learn how to have the companies themselves. I don't even like the term work for. But for me to do work for somebody, it sounds like I'm doing your work. I need to work for myself and everything that comes with that. So when we talk about generational wealth, that's just from the financial part. But what about the generational wealth that's Islamically? I've heard Imam Amin speak and teach some of the classes, and generation after generation after generation, in particular families, were scholars. So they was transferring generational wealth of knowledge and piety and righteousness from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Again, we tend to always start off starting a business from a zero-based budgets. Some business you can do that. Some business you can do that. If you got some tools, you can start a plumbing business. Get your name out there, go around, knock on some doors. Somebody have a problem, word of mouth. So you can build it up without having any money. That's possible, a zero-based budget. But it's a lot easier and a lot more beneficial that if I have a plumbing business or electrical business or a painting business, that I leave that business to my sons, to my daughters, and they have something to start a business, or even if they want to take it and evolve it into something bigger. So they want to evolve it from plumbing to the whole commercial thing of electrical, carpentry, blah, blah, blah. So they want to do all of this. So they want to expand it, but at least they had a base to start off. They didn't come in with zero. They weren't competitive. One of my youngest sons has a wholesale auto dealer's license. And he says to me, Dad, when I go to these auctions, I'm at the mercy of these people. And I'm like, why? He said, because when I walk in there, I walk into this auction with $10,000. When these other people walk in there, they walk in with 100,000. They walk in with 200,000. I can't compete with them. I either have to be nice with them so that they could, okay, Onyx, we'll let you have this car. You can go ahead and get that one, okay? Or they done spent all their money and I get what's left behind, okay? Or the things that they just don't want. And we tend to compete in the marketplace with that same type of thinking. Economically, when one of the things that we're constantly hearing from Imam Amin and from the other imams is acquire the knowledge, pass it on, so that even if our generation don't produce a lot of scholars, maybe the next one will. and then they'll follow that. And then at some point, we'll get to the place where there'll be generational scholars in one family, inshallah. And that's a wonderful thing. And then also not that, but then the social, passing on social wealth. How do we deal with a community? You know, the psychology deals with the individual, the person. Psychiatry deals with the person. Mental health deals with the family. Sociology deals with the community. And that community can be a square block, it can be a town, it can be a city, or it can be a whole nation. But that, so it's spreading out. And each one of them deals with the mental aspect or the mental health of these different groups. So we start that. You know what? I knew how to get a girlfriend when I was 7 years old. When I was 7 years old, I knew how to get a girlfriend. But I was 40 before I knew how to pick a wife. I didn't know how to pick a woman to be the mother of my children. Is this the person that I want to be the mother of my children? That's some of that generational wealth that we have that can be passed on from generation to generation to generation. Unfortunately, as I was speaking to you about earlier, Imam, Amin, and me and Hajj speak about this often. A lot of our youth, they don't really want to be around the people that's older. They don't want to hear those conversations. They don't want to hear that advice. So hence, they don't learn how to pick a husband. They don't learn how to pick a wife. They don't learn how to do a lot of things that they always starting off with a zero-based budget. And it's just not from the economic market, but it's from the social market, from the family market. What is your value as a person? What do you bring to a family? As a man, what are you bringing to a family? You know, my parents didn't have they were country people from North Carolina, sharecroppers that escaped that brutal lifestyle that they had to go through in the South and moved to New York, where I was born, and things was just as racist, but just different. You know, New York racism is not in your face. In the South back then, racism was like you were to your face. You knew exactly where you stood with people. But I learned how to be a provider from watching my father. I learned how to be a provider by watching the men in my family. Even the worst of them were taken care of by the family. You know, I remember a time when the elders were not put in homes and stuff. The children came home or brought the parents home to take care of them. All right. I went to Africa, and it blew my mind when I went to visit somebody. There was like 4 generations of people living in a house. And everybody was eating from right from this, putting their hands in the same plate. We're selfish. We're conditioned mentally to be selfish with our wealth, with our knowledge. And we're conditioned to not take knowledge from our own people, our own elders. This is by design. This isn't something that we started out with, because I'm telling you, I remember when. But I can tell you now that it's difficult to get, and I'm sure everybody that's on this panel right now can tell you that it's difficult sometimes to get young people to listen to us. Not because they can't hear, just because they've been conditioned to not listen to us. That's what I think it is. And I could be wrong. Society has replaced the family and the man of the house with the government. And we need to bring that back. We have to do that. Nobody can do that for us. So that's number 2, that if we can get the youth to start listening to us. And if everybody's on here that's young, listen to the people in your family that's older than you. They have some wisdom that you don't possess yet. You haven't been on the planet long enough to get it. How can you have an understanding of life that's equal? I've been on the planet almost 70 years. By the time you was born, I had probably been on the planet for 30 years for a lot of y'all already, and had a multitude of experiences. You know, it would be wise for you, if you was to sit down at a board meeting with the president of a bank and you had a job as a banker, you got a job, wouldn't you take knowledge from the people who have been there for a longer time? Anything you do in life, you go to learn something, you go to a school. When you submit to go to a university, you are submitting to the professor or the teacher to acquire knowledge from that person because they've been doing it longer than you. And that should start at home. And if the young people in here can hear my voice and hear the idea of just doing that, we might not agree all the time, but you're not starting off with a zero-based mental budget. You're not starting off with a zero-based financial budget. You're not starting off with a mental-based psychological and moral budget. You have something that you're building upon. We're elders are not saying to you, do it the way we did it and don't change a thing. No, we're not saying that. We're saying take what we have that we have acquired already, take it and build on it. Expand your knowledge, expand your mind, grow, become even bigger and better than we were. Because you have more money than we did when we were your age. Now you have access to more money. Don't mean that you were better than we were, and it don't mean that you're smarter than we were. It don't. James Brown was not a good person. Islamically, he was horrible. But I do remember admiring the fact that in the 60s, this man was a millionaire. He had his own jet. He had his own recording company. He produced his own music. And that's something that's even unheard of to this day. And he had a third, fourth grade education. So that's not the primary thing that we need. So those are two things that I think that would be beneficial to us. And the last thing is real simple. It's just to remember that the biggest head make the biggest target, to stay humble and know that everything that we have comes from Allah, and everything that we're supposed to get is going to happen for us, and the things that we're not supposed to get are not going to happen for us. And don't panic. Don't panic. We're going to make it to the end. We're not going to starve. We're going to have something to eat if it's nothing but a bag of potato chips. Okay? If we have to swallow some water, if that's what Allah gave us to survive from, don't panic. And I say this to myself first. And those are the three things that I can think of. That's what I try to live by.
Alhamdulillah.
Those things right there.
Hajj Tamir, you go with your three. Imam Faheem, I'm gonna go pray. If you can take over the questions which you gathered from.
Okay.
So Hajj Tamir, give his three, and then I'll be back. Barakallahu bikum.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Again, I remind you to correct your intentions. I want to touch on what Imam Asim said about unity. Is one of the key things that we need, but that unity needs to be following the path of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need to be unified in that aspect of our lives, because any other path that one would take is very dangerous. It's very treacherous. So we need to be unified on the path of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and stick to that. So unity is very important. I thank Imam Asim for reminding us of the unity. And my second thing is that sometimes we tend to forget, be mindful of a shaitan. Sometimes we forget that shaitan is busy. And if one is not mindful of him, when he comes to you, you will succumb. He's been doing this for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So don't ever, ever forget that shaitan is waiting around every corner, every turn to push you into the positions of being sinful, being disobedient to Allah, not following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is one of the main issues with our youth, is that they have succumbed, as we all have, to the whispers of a shaitan. We all have come to the point where we're not unified in following the path of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are two key things that we must incorporate in our everyday lives and not to forget about it. And the other thing I want to remind you is that Allah Azza wa Jalla said that He said that every soul shall taste death. Every soul. So you have to be reminded of that every day. That one has to be reminded that he's going to die. That should be in your mind every day. You should take one moment every day and think about death. I do because I guess I'm older. Young people sometimes they think they have a long time. But trust me, the time passes by so quickly. And the older you get, as Imam Asim can tell you, and Tanwir, and Imam Faheem, and Imam Amin, the older you get, the faster that the time goes by.
That's right.
It goes by so quickly. So quick. I was just looking at me and my wife went to Hajj 2018, and now it's 3 years later that the time passes by quickly. So remind yourself that you don't have a lot of time. Remind yourself that you are going into the grave. Remind yourself, as we say amongst our brothers, that we're all in line following one another to the grave. So far, you have gone to the graveyard and you have come back. You have gone to the graveyard and you have come back. One of the times you will go, you will stay, and others will come back. And you will stay.
Right.
And my final thing I want to say is that don't let anyone ever tell you that you have no value, that you are of no benefit. Because I faced this. But don't let anyone tell you that you have no value. You know, you're not beneficial in this religion. For me, I think I'm the least knowledgeable among the brothers that are here. But still, each one of us is a benefit. And what Imam Amin has started with unifying the different masjids or musallas in Atlantic City, in Baltimore, in Memphis, and other places. And I hope that it will extend as we're trying to do in Philadelphia. This unity is very important to build a base of teaching the correct knowledge, joining these different communities together, which we have been lacking in doing for one reason or another, but we know, MashaAllah can, whatever Allah will to be shall be, whatever Allah Ta'ala did not will to be shall not be. But this is a start. We have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere, and we need to be unified. And even as it was mentioned, we may disagree on some issues, as long as we don't disagree upon the creed.
Amin.
That's the most important thing. So this is what me and my small amount of knowledge, this is what I have to say. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.
Amin. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, go ahead, Imam. You have something?
No, I just want to say, if I can say, everybody has a level of knowledge that makes them worthy of sharing it. See, like Imam Amin said in the beginning, earlier, he said that the person with knowledge that don't practice it is in trouble when they stand before Allah. See, one thing, I've read that the companions of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, once they learned something, they put it into practice. They didn't want to walk around with all this knowledge. They wanted to be individuals that when they learned something, you looked at them and you seen the example of what they learned. See, and that's what's, that's what's utmost important amongst the ummah, is what they see from us. See, it ain't so much of what we know, is what they see that we do know and we do practice. See, and that's gonna make us who we are, because again, you got people running around here, they know this hadith, they know that hadith, and they the worst ones in the ummah. I put it like that. You look at this guy's always running his mouth. And he the worst joker amongst everybody. You know what I mean? And you know, the imams know that, you know, a lot of these guys, man, you sit back. These are guys you gotta, you know, they hitting their wife, they doing this, they doing that, you know, and it's you know, the little things, man, that we learn and practice is what makes us excel in seeking the higher things. So alhamdulillah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. I got something I want to put in there. Alhamdulillah, this is a lot of great wisdom. This is like a virtual fireside chat. MashaAllah. I wanted to pose something. You know, myself, Imam, Amin, they consider, well, because of the gap divide with the generations, like we're younger imams, but to the younger people, we're old heads, you know what I mean? And, you know, so one of the question I wanted to ask, and I want all of you to give your feedback. What do you think is our responsibility as far as adaptability with the youth? Because I think this is some of the things that we may miss. Because, for instance, like the youth nowadays, you know, there's a divide between us and them, and then there's definitely a divide between them and elder Muslims. You know, like even now we can't, as younger imams, we can't even really relate sometimes to some of the stuff that the youth is going through. You know what I mean? But there's an element there. I think we have a responsibility to adapt, and that's how we reach them. You know what I mean? Because, you know, as you get older, certain things, you know, you've been down the path, certain things just don't make sense to you. Certain things you just don't accept. And a lot of things you just want to say because you're not concerned about how people feel. You don't really, you know, you don't give a, like one of my old heads said, I don't give a fat rat's tail. He always say this, you know, so, and that's just natural getting older. But at the same time, for us to reach the youth, there's a level of, I think, adaptability that we have to make them feel like they're connected, to make them feel like, you know, that we are kind of bridging the gap. So I would like to hear some feedback on that.
Well, I just wanted to say this because I'm going to go mix a lot too. I've stopped trying to reach the youth, okay? I think it's the youth's position to reach us. Because, you know, our history dictates that the young follow the old. See, you know, I don't know where the norms of our family culture changed, and we had to start following the youth. You know, I seen it somewhere where the older women wanted to look like the younger women. You know, if you can relate to what I'm saying. See, when a woman reaches a certain age, especially some women, sisters don't get mad at me, all right? She wants to feel young again. Nah, I mean, I'm just being for real. And I don't mean no harm. But she wants to feel younger. So she starts to doing what the young sisters do. If anybody ever noticed that or experienced that, okay. But when it came down to the men, you know, when did the men start wanting to be like the young boys, as we used to say? See, my dunya is a dunya where the young boys always wanted to be like the old heads. We always, like you say, we listen to the old heads, man. We wanted to be like them. We watch how they boxed. You know what I mean? We emulated how they walked. You know, and that's how the young boys emulated the older. So when did the conflict come where the older brothers had to start relating to the younger brothers? Something changed somewhere. Because, you know, and I don't know if it was our conduct or our culture where we just became unworthy of being emulated or being followed. I mean, maybe we just became chumps. And the young boys just said, man, we don't want to be like them guys, man. You know? But we supposed to set the example. You see, we supposed to set the example. It don't mean that we're going to always have better ideas or that what we're going to do will be the best for a situation that's applied. But the bottom line is we are the mentors of the community, man. Yeah, we got to relate to our youth, but our youth should love us, respect us, honor us to the point where they want to be around us. They want to do the things we did. See, and that has to be something that's established. Because a part of the Willie Lynch concept, we all familiar with that, right? Young people are estranged from the older people. That's one of the things that separates the ummah, where you cause the young to be alienated from the old. No, we out of it. The men alienated from the women. Whenever we don't start seeing, you know, the rights of the women, the needs of the women, it's just that as a community, we have things that's built in us that make us relate to one another, where we don't have to reach out. Because we had a conversation, we was talking about the youth, that it was saying, well, what y'all gonna do for the youth? Well, who's the youth? You got 30-year-old men that's running around talking about they the youth. How y'all the youth, man? You 30 years old. What makes you the youth? You know, we tried to be grown when we was 19, right? We thought we was old heads when we was 19. So, you know, you're not the youth when you're 30, man. You a man, and you supposed to roll your pants leg up and get involved. You supposed to do what men do. When we took Shahada, we was the men, huh? We was 18, 19 years old. We was the men. We had to make sure that the electric was on, the gas was on. You understand what I'm saying? And we didn't look for nobody else to do nothing. We was the ones that had to do it. We were newlyweds. We just got married. We all had new wives, right? We didn't know how to be husbands. Not Muslim husbands. We just came in Islam. So we had our pitfalls. But, you know, for the most part, Allah allowed us to survive this thing. You see? And a lot of our marriages was 30 years, huh? The average marriage was 30 years, man. So, you know, I don't believe that we ought to move backwards. I believe we ought to incorporate our youth in the things that we know should be established to uphold the ummah. See, because that's what we're trying to do. Prophet ﷺ said that my Lord has commanded me to establish the ummah. So we want to uphold the ummah, man. I don't necessarily want to be an American. Now I know that's controversial, because I talked to a brother before. He said, you ain't no American? I said, I ain't no American in the sense that you think I'm an American. You know what I mean? I said, because it's a whole lot attached to being an American. I live here. I got a passport. And, you know, I don't know and I may wave a flag when I have to. But the reality is, man, to say you are a part of something that Allah has cursed is a heavy statement. And I believe we can justify it through our belief, because at some point we're just going to have to say, nah, man, I don't believe it that way, because Allah forbid that. Because, you know, that's what it is. You know, now I think right now the Muslims are scared to say no. I think we're scared to say no, man. You know, I'm sorry, Imam, I'm talking too much.
Yeah, it's almost Fajr time, Imam Asim.
I know.
Sheikh Tanwir, you want to go or? Well, let me say something real quick. When I said
you're gonna go to pray, we'll wait for you. So
yeah. I'm gonna go make salah.
Yeah,
right.
Before you respond, Brother Tanwir, I just wanted to clarify when I said adapt, I don't mean like follow the youth. I mean like trying to have an understanding of where they're coming from, because they're the way they are now is not like the way that many of us were raised. You know, we like Imam, Amin, and I are at like the top of that generation. We still got them old school values. You know what I mean? Like, so you know, I'll adjust to the youth, but I'm not wearing no skinny jeans. My pants not hanging down, and I try a little couple rap. You know, I try to do a little raps here and there, but that's about it. You know, but I'm not going down to where they level at. But I'm talking about understanding where they're coming from, so we can build that relationship. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, Bismillah. You know, they say divided we stand, united we stand, divided we fall. And one of the things that I remember so much when I was a young child, a young teenager, and a young man, was that we had a lot of family unity. The men were always present. The children were always present. The women were always present. We was going over our aunt so-and-so's house for a cookout, or we was going to a family reunion, or we was going to visit somebody in the family every week, even if we walked. I'm from New York. You do a lot of walking in New York, even if we walked. And when we went south, the family was always there. The men were there, the women were there, the boys and the girls were there. So there was always a presence. So it was never a need to have to create events and include the youth in. You know, we take on the attitude now that we got to create something for the kids to do. If we just have them come together, Faheem will wear some skinny jeans. Oh man, that's cold blooded. Not the stretch ones too, right? But anyway, if we together, just being present, having the youth around us all the time, have them included in our daily lives, not in the room playing video games while we're outside or in our room watching TV and all this kind of stuff. If we can do things together as a family. My family, we had one TV in the house, and we all came together and watched TV. So the youth were always being influenced by the people who were older. The boys and the girls were being influenced by the men and the women that was present. They were seeing how a husband and wife interact. They were learning how to, you know, being when things was happening on TV that we was watching, it's like, yo, that's not cool, that's okay. You know, it was instruction going on all the time. And like I said, it was just always a presence. It was always a family unit. If we can start having a closer connection with the youth in terms of just being present with them and them being present with us and included in our activities. We don't have to have separate activities for them to do. We can just include them in ours. You know, we can include ourselves. I still play games. I still like basketball. I still like swimming. I still like riding a bike. I still like riding a horse. I still love archery. I still love the martial arts. I do that with all age groups, right? And so I'm still present, but I'm not trying to imitate them. I don't, like Imam Faheem said, I'm not wearing those skinny jeans. I'm not going to be that guy who's trying to be out here doing rap. Although a lot of young people really believe that rap is a young thing, and it's not. I'm telling you, I remember when rap started, and when rap started, I was 17 years old. Okay, it started in New York. I was 17 years old. I was a DJ. My homeboys used to grab the mic and start rapping over the music, right? So that's how it started. It started up in the Bronx. It started in Brooklyn. I remember that. So don't start thinking that rap is just a young, this is something that belongs to your generation. It's been around for a long time, okay? It's just that, and I've seen it go through a bunch of different phases. It went through how bad and tough I am. Then it went, or how cool I am, rapper. The cool phase. Then it went into the political one, or the conscious rap. Then it went into gangster, and now it's somewhere else that I don't know what's happening with it now. What's this dude name? Lil Nas or whatever. That's a whole nother thing. I don't even know what that is, but. Just inclusion. If we can include, even Faheem, if we can include the children, the young, the people, and all of us come together again as families, doing everything that we do as much as possible together. My dad used to take me with him to work. My dad had a second job cleaning offices on the weekends, and he used to take me with him to work. And I'd be in there sweeping and all this other stuff with him, but I was with my dad. So I was getting that energy from him, you know, and so it's just, oh my God, MC Tanwir, guys, it's funny. And Issa, you know, mental health is something that, you know, we've outsourced it. It was a time when our mental health came from my elders. You know, one of the brothers asked a question of me, to how did I start loving Allah? I started loving Allah by pushing myself to do more deeds of worship. And as I did more deeds of worship, I learned later on from Imam Amin that my heart started filling more and more with light, inshallah. And then the love started to penetrate, and I started becoming more attached to that. You know, whichever one we feed of ourselves, we feed our good self, that's what's going to grow. We feed our evil self, that's what's going to grow. Whatever one we feed, that's the one that's going to grow. And that's what I choose to feed. I feed the other one, the good side, more, doing the righteous deeds more, doing the studying more. Imam Amin and all the other imams got us doing so many classes now that my day is filled with Islam. My day is being more and more saturated. He's talking about adding more stuff on top of that. It's being more and more saturated with Islam. I don't have time to think about zina. And don't think because I'm 67 years old that it don't happen. Don't get that twisted, because it do. These young girls still look good. That ain't changed. Okay? I've had the 2, 3, 4 wives. I've been through that. Hajj Tamir is too. I ain't gonna tell any story, Hajj Tamir. I've been through the drama with that. There was bottles flying through windows and all this other kind of, because sisters get on some other stuff with that polygamy thing sometimes. But if we bring the family back, Faheem, if we bring the family back to the place where we're doing things together as a unit, and especially if that thing is, as Hajj Tamir keeps saying over and over again, is pushing activities that involve religion. How many times do we pray together as a family? How many times do we sit down and study together as a family? We have our women's study group. We have our men's study group. Do we have a family study group? How many times do we sit around, me and my wife, listen to the post-fajr and reflections and scattered thoughts together? We're sitting in the same room and we both click on our phone just so that we can get the numbers up. Keep the numbers high, because that has, you know, some algorithm things. Because with those algorithms, I'm telling you, when post-fajr reflections goes off, something else comes on. And with the algorithms, because I'm doing so much Islamic stuff now, listening to the class, it's an Islamic, something Islamic come on. Instead of somebody coming on singing a song or somebody coming on twerking. You know, those things always follow. Something follows. That's it. So.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Habibina Muhammad. From my point of view, somewhere along the line, we have lost several generations of youth. I don't know where it turned, when it turned. We've lost several generations. And there are so many distractions out there that pulls their attention away from the most important matters. So we have to try to we're going to have to work through those generations that were lost. That has to be weeded out. And then by us starting now to try to teach, and it's very important that what we're trying to do is teach the people. We have to start somewhere, and so we've started, but there are several generations that are just out there and lost. That's just a fact. And one of the things that we must have during this time is patience, sabr, because someone had patience with us to teach us, to show us. Somebody had patience, a lot of patience to do that. We made a lot of mistakes, but still the patience was there. So we need to have patience with our youth, and we need to try to teach them what we have learned. And inshallah ta'ala, they will eventually come around and we'll pass through these generations that were just lost. And we have to face the reality of that. There's no getting around that, inshallah ta'ala. So I just keep it short. That's what I think as far as the youth are concerned. But we can't give up on them. We still have to have patience and try to teach. And inshallah ta'ala, Allah ta'ala will make a way for us to facilitate the benefit that the older Muslims have. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
Okay, alhamdulillah. All right, real quick intermission. Where we at with that bread? This is part of youth.
Same place we at every week. You got to beg for it.
This is part of youth development. You know what I mean?
Ain't nothing changed.
This is part of youth development. Y'all young, y'all strong, y'all got money, you got opportunities. Let's give it up.
Okay, I have 50, so somebody has to match my 50.
Look at the elder still carrying the banner. Come on.
Tamir said he has 100, so everyone has to match his 100.
Well, I can give 100, Sheikh.
Look at the elders carrying the banner.
Hey, but you know what? Now we need our youth to match our elders, and then say, "Don't worry about elders. Keep your money. We're gonna put your money and our money." You know, I remember. No, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. Right? When we was young, the imams never had to worry about money. Seriously, that wasn't like the elders. That was like you need money, right? Forget how the money was coming. We ain't talking about that part. We're just talking about the willingness to give. That's what I'm talking about, right? Because here's the thing, though. The money that our youth have access to now in the world we live in was equivalent to the guy on the block back in the day. Like, people got jobs that make that kind of money now, right? You know, and plus, you know, so we got to believe in ourselves. You know what I mean? I think that's important. We got to believe in ourselves.
Alhamdulillah.
But okay, we'll move on. Imam Faheem, we got to boost up the fundraising.
Okay, yeah, a lot of people said that they're going to cover the elders what they matched already, plus more, because of they honoring the elders and they appreciate all the wisdom that we've got here tonight. So that's ain't no better way to honor it than, you know, to match and surpass what they've given. Alhamdulillah.
And maybe people may not realize this, but we tell them this money not for us. It's for us to do this because we have to go around the country. We have to meet with one another. We have to connect with leaders to influence others. That stuff takes money, right? We're all going to. I mean, Imam Faheem and them is going to. Wrong is bad, I don't know. But we're heading to New Mexico, Kansas, Detroit, Cleveland. We're all over the place. That stuff costs money. Plane tickets are not cheap, you know. And not only we want to make it that we go help communities, and we don't come taking, we come giving, right? So when we say we go to see Imam Asim, we should be able to be a support for him, not a burden on him. You know what I mean? And if we could do that around the country, there's a lot of communities that just don't have. There's a lot of communities that are struggling just to pay their bills, but nobody even know about them. But if they had a group to work with, some sincere people, we could get a lot done, right? And if we're going to teach knowledge, build family, we gotta take care of the financial aspect of that. It's important. You know, it's a reality, and we're competing with people who got a lot of money that's trying to destroy us, right?
Yeah, for sure. Can I say something, Sheikh?
That's great, Imam.
We have a national Jamaat, and a part of our national Jamaat goals and objectives is to be united nationwide. And you know, we are obligated to support one another in economically, socially, culturally. You see, and so if we begin a movement like that around the country and bring those entities together as one, then I think we'll be able to make a commitment in society, because there are going to be things that we're just going to have to do. Like I was talking, brother was telling me that Imam was disappointed in me because he heard that I was encouraging people to vote. And so, you know, he must don't know my background, you know, because I have never been someone that was hung up on the American political system. But I found it necessary for us to galvanize a political bloc to get the things established politically that could benefit us immediately. Now I know, you know, hey man, I'm not buying into this whole political thing. But for the things that we can achieve that's going to benefit us directly, man, we gotta vote, man. You know? So I hope, you know, that I'm sorry it disappointed some people, but when we look into what we're dealing with, man, in these cities and in these states, we find that, man, it's certain things that we can get done that's going to benefit us, man. And the way we can get them done is we give them a strong political block that lets them know that we could change the outcome of votes one way or another. Now, they say that Philadelphia swung the vote in Biden's camp. Well, you know, most of the people in Philadelphia are related somewhere or another to the Muslims, man. We have a strong political presence here in Philadelphia. And I mean one that we really haven't even realized yet. But, you know, we have the ability, man, to change some things. Now, we know it's going to be things you can't change. But should we change the things that we can change? You know? So if you know, I'm sorry if that disappoints someone into believing that I'm supporting the American political system, because I'm not. But I know we need some things, and if the only way we can get it is to change that vote, I think we should do it.
I'll give you an evidence of what you're saying, Imam. I couldn't get most of the things that happens for our masjid and for our community done in Atlantic City, except that we have strong political connections.
Okay.
Right? The brothers came, and you know, people came when they saw it. The mayor, the vice president of council, school board members. We have a lot of Muslims that are influential, and because of that influence, we could get a lot of things done. Right? Especially services in our community. Like I could give you an example that you was talking about the violence. We got a violence problem here in Atlantic City. They shooting up and killing people too, right? But because of this influence, we have a group that's ran by the city to intervene and stopping violence that's led by Muslims. The best people to go in the neighborhood, they're led by Muslims, right? So that whole department was developed for that purpose, and it's led by Muslims. And unfortunately, like a lot of major cities, well, like Philly and Atlantic City, the leaders of these crimes, and we got a gang problem too now in neighborhoods, are Muslims. So having Muslims go reach Muslims is bringing down the crime.
Alhamdulillah.
And that's only through political. Other than that, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
So that's the point you're making.
Right. So, you know, it's essential, man, that we involve ourselves in things, man, that's going to change the condition of our community, man. So, alhamdulillah. But I want, you know, if I can, Imam, I want to make an apology, man, to the sisters, because I wasn't trying to belittle them in any way. I was just trying to give an example of how we like to be young again. And I know that's me. That's me too. I like, you know, because like Tanwir said, we was trained in martial arts, right? And we thought that we was it. You know what I'm saying? Now we started getting old, right? After the 20-year mark, you know, after the 20 years in martial arts, man, you start saying, man, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Can I do this? But again, you're trying to keep up with the youngsters, so you push yourself. You see what I'm saying? You push yourself to throw that roundhouse, you know what I mean, on a sidekick, you know. But alhamdulillah,
Imam Faheem. So what I'm hoping that inshallah we have like a few minutes left. I'm hoping that we can do more of this. But I honestly believe it got to go off social media, and we got to start meeting on the ground, right? Where there's physical contact. Sometimes we can't feel each other through the screen. We can't.
Right.
When we together, and you get to see that, yeah, these people are like they really are in person, you know, and we have a lot of work to do, right? And one of the biggest things that many people don't know, and I asked Tanwir and Tamir and you, Imam, that I wanted y'all together because there was a period when y'all might have been at each other's throats. And look what we now, as I remember this, I tell you something. I want to ask y'all about this too, right? I remember when we was younger, when I caught my Fed case, we were at a point where it was people hurting each other, right? And now some of these same guys that now we're talking 30 something years later, right? Everybody got jobs, raising their kids. Some of them live in the same neighborhood. They're all old, and they realize, like, man, we could have did a lot better, right, with ourselves when we would have, if we'd have been thinking. And I think about it, right? From your past experiences, what have y'all learned about the importance of us being patient, forbearing, and cooperating with our together for a bigger goal, for a bigger objective, right? Because y'all know how to be on different sides, and y'all know what that leads to, and you're living the outcome of it. What advice would y'all give in terms of that? And let's switch it up. Let's go from the youngest to the oldest and to the Imam. So Tamir, you first.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. With age comes wisdom. When we were younger, we had the energy, we had different aspects, but we didn't have the wisdom that we do now. So, had we come together with wisdom and the energy, it would have been the best outcome. But now, being older, all we can do is try to advise, to be examples, to teach what we know. We need to be examples. We need to really get out into the neighborhoods and stop standing back and standing by. We need to get out into the neighborhoods. Say, like in Philadelphia, get on 52nd Street, get on 60th Street, get on these major streets and these major avenues, and just teach the religion. You know, we have it, but we have to be able to give it. Some people have a lot of knowledge, but they don't know how to give the knowledge. So you need to give what you have. So we have to stop talking and start doing. And we have to use that wisdom that we've gained over all of these years to benefit others. That's what I see.
Sayyidi Tanwir.
I was thinking about what just Hajj Tamir just said about getting out on it and spreading the dawah, and I was thinking about something that used to happen when we were young around Philadelphia. When I lived in Philadelphia, that's where Allah willed that I go, and that's where I learned about Islam. And we knew that it was difficult for us to give dawah to our family members. So what we would do is we would invite each other over each other's homes. And we would go visit our cousin, or go visit our aunt, or our uncle, or our sister, our family, some family member with other brothers, and maybe their wife would be with us or something like that. And they would end up giving dawah to them because they would accept it from them a lot easier than they could accept it from us sometimes, because they remembered us when. And it took my family a long time to not see me as that guy that I was before. A long time. I'm not talking about a year or two. I'm talking about it was 10, 20 years when I would still come in the house or go visit family, come to a family reunion, and people was wondering if it was going, if things was going to go well. So they still remember some things about it, and sometimes they have a difficult time acknowledging that there's been a change in our lives as a result of Islam. And if I took, if Hajj Tamir went with me somewhere, he was talking to one of my cousins, or Omar, or anybody, any of the brothers that I know, it made a difference. As far as unity is concerned, we have situations where we have 99 things in common, And one thing that we don't agree upon, and sometimes we've allowed in the past that one thing to cancel out all of the 99 things that we have in common. And we tend to keep repeating that in relationship after relationship, be it with family, spouses, in the deen, all over the place. And we keep falling and failing as a result of that. If we can start focusing on the most important thing, which is having the correct belief about Allah and His Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, having the correct knowledge and implement it in our lives, being examples in our society by the way that we live. The fact that my mother, I tried to call her to Islam for 30 years and she refused. But in that 30-year period of time, she saw how her son was affected by Islam because I was still present. And she saw the change. And 2 weeks before she died, she could actually start hearing me. So all of those years, she was hearing what I was saying, but it wasn't going in. She couldn't hear it. But as a result of seeing the way that my life has evolved into a life where I was actually living what I was telling her, and she saw the remarkable change that happened to me. She ended up taking Shahada 2 weeks before she died. Alhamdulillah. So that unity is something that if we can just stay focused on that, because our goal is to spread this deen. Our goal is to spread this deen. Our goal is to spread this deen by any means necessary. That is the only cure that I see for the society that we live in. And if it means, Imam Asim, if it means that we go out and vote, listen, let me tell you something that I witnessed. I remember when the gay people came out the closet in the 70s and 80s. They came out the closet. Then I started hearing stories about them trying to get in positions of power so that they could change some laws. And we're looking at fast forward to 2020, 21, we're looking at the effects of them getting in positions of power in government to change laws to the point that there's certain things you can't even say about them.
That's
you can't
right.
look at them a certain way. You can't oppose them. You can't even oppose them approaching your children. In order for us to keep them away from our children, we have to homeschool. I mean, we can't let our children look at certain cartoons. They've gotten into the media just by getting in positions where they could make and change laws. And if we can get pious, righteous, knowledgeable Muslims in those same positions, and we can get a whole lot done. That's it.
Amin.
I think you next, Imam. I'm awesome.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Of course, with age come wisdom, and I think we had a lot of years to realize something. I'm gonna say a little joke. This is a joke that a brother said to me one time. He said, "It's two things that somebody said was the truth." I'm not gonna mention names because I don't want to be controversial. He says two things that person said was the truth, and that was bean pies are good and the white man is the devil. So yeah, I mean that's a joke, right? But we have to remember, man, who our enemy was, man. Who our enemy is, man. See, number one, Shaitan is the enemy. But Shaitan has agents. And these agents, man, you know, I've seen them work directly, brothers, in trying to destroy the fabric of the united effort. They don't want Muslims to be united. So as a result, it's almost on the verge now of Muslims carrying guns again. See, because you know, you have people, man, who have taken stances that's not even it's not even based on religion, not even based on Aqidah. see, it's just based on us against them. You know, so 30 years, I believe, have taught us how to identify who our enemies really are and to unite where we find it's beneficial to unite. Now, I know one brother mentioned that unity should be based on belief in Allah and found the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, of course, that has to be the essence of what we're united on. But we have to have goals and objectives as Muslims that we're trying to achieve. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the strength is in the ummah. See, so it's only going to be through the united effort, as Allah has told us in the ayat, he says, وَأَتَصِّمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تُفَرِّقُوا. He says, and hold fast to this guidance and be not divided amongst yourselves. See, so, and again, Allah says, and they only got weak when they begin to disunite. So, us knowing, having the wisdom to know that we're not each other's enemies, man. We're not the enemies of one another, man. And we're gonna disagree on some things, and we're gonna agree on some things. And eventually, if we sincere, then the truth is gonna manifest itself. And that's what I think we all ultimately are committed to. See? So, again, knowing who our enemies are, what our goals and objectives are, coming together to try to achieve those goals and objectives. And like Sheikh was saying, I got some brothers around the country that I know is willing to come together with other brothers around the country to sit down and start discussing the things, man, that's important to us to have established amongst ourselves and for us to implement in society. See, like one thing right off the bat, can we all agree that we should grab hold of our youth? When I'm talking about our youth, I'm talking about 13, 14 years olds. They the ones we got to grab hold to. You see what I'm saying? And you ain't gonna be able to change a 30-year-old man. You know what I mean? But we need to grab our youth for real and begin to give them instructions in life. We got a program. I know most of y'all are familiar with it, called a Jawala Scouts. Yeah, everybody heard of Jawala Scouts, right? Well, actually, it's our Boy Scout program. And we teach, and our main thing is to teach them archery, shooting, horseback riding, camping, you know what I mean? And to get them involved in manly things. You know what I mean? Take that computer out their hand and get them involved in manly things. You know what I mean? And that's our effort with our youth. But I know we all got some effort that we dealing with our youth. But we need to bring these ideas and suggestions to one another. You know what I mean? And like Imam Amin is saying, we need to have a national convention, you know what I mean, of indigenous imams, where we come together, man, we sit down and we brainstorm on the things that's important to us that we can implement. Let's just start off with the things we can implement. See, this was the problem, brothers, with manna. I know everybody heard of manna, right? Yeah. Manna started off as the Muslim Alliance of North America. That's manna. And it was supposed to be an alliance, but it turned into an organization. See, if we just concentrate on coming together as brothers and agreeing on the things that we can agree upon and implementing the things that we can implement amongst ourselves to unite us, then, that's what's going to be important, man. Like you said, there all this talk don't mean nothing. What can we do? What can all of us do together? What can we say? All right, well, let's do this. Let's everybody do this. And start off with maybe one or two things. You see? And that's how I look at it, Alhamdulillah.
It's done, Imam. We'll be to see you. We already made that agreement.
Alhamdulillah.
We're going to tie that together. For us, this should be a life work, right? We have to leave a legacy. We have to, right? And so, done deal. Inshallah ta'ala, that's why we're here. And believe me, what is good thing about this social media is that others who are like-minded will see what we're doing, they will reach out, and that's how it'll spread.
Alhamdulillah.
That's a good thing. Where before we had to do a lot of extra work, all we got to do is make it known. There are many brothers and sisters and youth who are looking for what we're talking about. They just don't know where to find it.
Right.
Once we give them a real thought out plan that in general, everyone can function and everyone's needs is different, and we show real sincerity and love, like you did. We get so busy sometimes that we don't be able to reach out. And first thing you did, boop, boop, yo, Imam, to the point that you felt that was important. And I felt the same way. And we'll keep it together. Same thing we do with each other. And the part is just that, and I just say one thing, and for me in closing that, we can never cross one another, right?
Right.
That's more important because, as you said, the enemy doesn't like to see this type of strength at all.
Right.
Not even the look of it.
Right.
So we got to be soldiers.
Yeah, because he's coming.
Not just I can fight, but also can stand up.
Alhamdulillah.
Right? Because I know a lot of guys who can fight, but when the boys got a hold of them, they crumbled. Right? Like, you can rumble, but what happened when it was time to rumble with the man? You got scared. Right? So, I mean, but none of this will work if we don't have loyalty with one another. Real love, right?
Hey, and what that means, Imam, is when someone comes to you and say, well, Imam Asim said this. That means you get on the telephone, you go boop, 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 Imam Asim. You see what I'm saying? And
right.
that's how we stay brothers, man.
Right.
Like right now, I got brothers that I know love Elijah Muhammad. But me and them can get along on certain things. Mm-hmm. You see, we don't even talk about that. Because we know what that is, right? We already know that that's going to cause us to fall out. Right? So we don't even talk about that. We talk about the Aqidah that we know we all believe. Yeah, not what we used to believe. So, we got to get along in the things that we can get along with. That's what's important now. That's where we at now. We got to circle the wagons. Alhamdulillah.
It'll work. I think inshallah ta'ala, we're putting the energy. And even if we only plant the seed, someone will come behind us and pick up the ball.
Alhamdulillah.
Right? If we just plant the seed. And alhamdulillah. So we're going to leave it to our youth to close us out. Imam Faheem.
Alhamdulillah.
Imam Faheem, the show is yours. Let's close out, inshallah.
ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وقنا عذاب النار. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. الفاتحة.
Barakallahu fikum, and I thank everyone for support and attending. And let's just keep the ball moving, inshallah. We'll be all in touch. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.